Everyone thinks they know the story of the Deathly Hallows. 3 brothers, 3 magical objects, 1 creepy visit from death. End of story, right? Well, what if I told you that tale is actually a cover-up? That those so-called fairy tale objects are not just real, but part of a deeper magical system, rooted in power, loss, and a dangerous understanding of death itself. And here's the kicker. The brothers didn't find death. They worked with it. Stick around, because once you see the truth behind how the Hallows were really created, you'll never read that story the same way again. Everyone in the wizarding world has heard the tale of the 3 brothers. Most treat it like a charming bedtime story, the kind you tell kids to keep them from poking around dark forests after sunset. But under all that folklore and whimsy lies something disturbingly real. The Deathly Hallows aren't just symbolic. They exist. And not just in a moral of the story kind of way, but in a you can hold them in your hands and potentially wreck the world kind of way. The Elder Wand? It's not a myth. It's been passed from wizard to wizard, often through duels that didn't end with polite handshakes. The Resurrection Stone? Found inside a Horcrux, no less. And the Invisibility Cloak? Yeah, Harry's been using it like a magical hoodie since his first year. These aren't bedtime props. They're game changers, hidden in plain sight, woven into the core of the entire saga. Now here's the wild part. The people behind these objects, Antioch, Cadmus, and Ignotus Peveril, weren't just clever. They were visionaries. Not the mad scientist in a dungeon type, but calculated, deliberate creators who understood death more intimately than most dare to. Creating these objects wasn't a happy accident. It was a move that blurred the line between magic and myth. And people wonder why the Hallows are so feared. Some wizards believed they received these tools from death himself. Others, like Dumbledore, argued that they were simply brilliant craftsmen who understood the deep, dark layers of mortality. Either way, the story became a legend, then a lesson. That's how myths work. They slip into our minds disguised as fables while quietly shaping reality. It's almost like hiding the truth in plain sight, wouldn't you say? So if these artifacts are real, and the brothers existed, what does that say about the rest of the tale? Maybe the cloaked figure wasn't death at all, but a metaphor given a face. And maybe, just maybe, the story was never meant to scare children, but to warn grown wizards. Because when you look close enough, that little bedtime story starts looking a lot like history. And history has a funny way of repeating itself. Let's clear something up right now. Death, in The Tale of the 3 Brothers, isn't some skeleton in a cloak waving a scythe around like it's Comic-Con. According to Dumbledore, and let's be honest, the guy knows his stuff. The brothers didn't meet death. They outwitted it, or at least thought they did. What we're dealing with here is a story so old and well told, it's taken on a life, and a death of its own. In the Deathly Hallows, Dumbledore tells Harry they were clever enough to imagine such powerful objects. And that line right there flips the whole thing. The Hallows weren't given, they were made. The story, then, is a metaphor. Death isn't a character. It's a concept, a symbol for the inevitable, wrapped in narrative so it's easier to swallow, like coating a bezoar in sugar. Each brother's choice reveals something about how people deal with mortality. Antioch wants to conquer it. Classic power trip. Cadmus tries to reverse it. Romantic but tragic. Ignotus? He chooses to accept it, to walk with it like an old friend. It's basically 3 personality types at a family dinner. The ambitious, the nostalgic, and the wise. Guess which one gets dessert and lives the longest? So when we imagine death handing out magical party favors, we're really just seeing the brothers' deepest desires turned into dangerous inventions. The story works like a mirror. How we interpret it says more about us than about them. And like all good fairy tales, it sneaks the truth into the room without knocking. You don't realize what it's saying until it's already settled in your mind. And if death is just a metaphor, then the Hallows aren't cursed objects. They're reflections of human nature. Power, loss, wisdom, they're all different ways of facing the same end. Which raises a bigger question. What if the true magic isn't in the objects, but in the choice each brother made? And speaking of choices, let's talk about the wand that was never supposed to be beaten. The Elder Wand. The magical equivalent of driving a sports car with no brakes. Thrilling, but you're probably not making it out in one piece. Crafted from elder wood with a core from ancestral tail hair, yes, the creature you can only see if you've witnessed death, no big deal, this wand isn't your average spell slinger. It's legendary for a reason. It doesn't just win duels, it dominates them. Ollivander himself, the wand connoisseur, once said in the Deathly Hallows, The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. But the Elder Wand? It chooses violence. This isn't about compatibility. It's about conquest. Ownership changes through defeat, often in the most lethal way. It's less a tool, more a trophy. And the problem with trophies? Everybody wants one, and nobody wants to lose it. What makes it terrifying isn't just its power, it's its loyalty, or lack thereof. The wand follows the strongest, the victor, the survivor. It has no morals, no sentimentality, just power, raw and hungry. Voldemort thought it would obey him because he physically held it. But the wand's like, nah bro, I'm with Draco now. Classic magical betrayal. And here's the kicker. This wand can repair other wands, not patch them up, completely restore them. That kind of magic is basically unheard of. Even Ollivander, who literally breathes wand lore, admits he didn't think it was possible. Which tells us something important. Whoever made this wasn't just skilled. They were operating on a level the rest of the world hadn't even dreamed of. So yeah, the Elder Wand is impressive, but it's also a perfect example of how power without wisdom usually ends up digging a grave. Which brings us to another Hallows artifact, one that promises something far more dangerous than a duel. The illusion that we can bring back what's already gone. The Resurrection Stone. Sounds noble, right? Like something that gently brings Grandma back for Sunday brunch. But let's not get carried away. This isn't a reunion. It's a ghostly voicemail from the afterlife. As we see in the Deathly Hallows, what it really brings back are shadows, echoes. Harry sees his parents, Sirius, Lupin, but they're not alive. Their memories wearing skin. This thing doesn't bring peace, it brings longing. Cadmus Peverell learned that the hard way. He wanted his beloved back, but what returned wasn't her, just a sorrowful echo. He couldn't accept the gap between love and reality, and it drove him to madness. It's poetic, really, chasing what's lost only to lose yourself. And yet, that temptation never loses its shine. Now here's where it gets weird and fascinating. Some theories suggest the stone is a bezoar formed inside a thestral. Think about it. Thestrals are death-bound creatures. You can only see them after facing death, and they seem to exist between worlds. If the wand's core came from one, why not the stone? That would explain its eerie connection to the dead and its dangerous allure. The symbolism is strong here. The stone offers closure, but only if you're wise enough to let go. Most people aren't. That's the trap. It feeds on what we wish we could undo, making it arguably the cruelest of the Hallows. While the Elder Wand shouts power, the Resurrection Stone whispers comfort, and whispers, let's be honest, are often more dangerous than screams. So while one brother fell to arrogance, Cadmus fell to grief, and both ended up the same way. It's Ignotus, the youngest, who does something different. He doesn't try to dominate death or reverse it, he chooses to hide from it. And the item he uses to do that? Well, it's not flashy, but it might just be the most powerful one of all. Now let's talk about the most underrated Hallows of the trio, the invisibility cloak. No, not the one you'd buy off Wish that fizzles out after 5 minutes. I'm talking about the cloak, the one that doesn't wear off, doesn't tear, and doesn't care how bright the light is. It's not just for sneaking into the restricted section, it's for surviving what the other brothers couldn't. Harry uses it more times than we can count, hiding from Snape, escaping Filch, dodging Death Eaters. It's basically the Swiss Army knife of survival tools. Most cloaks in the wizarding world are made with demi-guise hair, and they degrade over time. But this one? Completely resistant to spells and time alike. As Xenophilius Lovegood said, it was a cloak of true invisibility. Now, here's where things get juicy. The theory is that this cloak was also made with thestral magic, maybe even their hair. Makes sense, right? If the other two Hallows are tied to thestrals and death, why would this one be any different? It's not just about hiding from people. It's about hiding from death itself. Not fighting it, not reversing it, evading it. That's a whole different level of magic. Ignotus Peverell knew better than to make a scene. While his brothers were out making history and graves, he quietly passed his cloak down through generations. That's how Harry ends up with it. And when he finally meets death in the Deathly Hallows, he doesn't run, he doesn't resist. He removes the cloak as an old friend. That line chills every time. So the cloak doesn't scream power, but it embodies it, just the wise kind. The kind that knows when to fight, when to run, and when to walk calmly into the night. But we're not done yet. Because when you look at all three Hallows together, a deeper pattern starts to emerge, one that goes way beyond magic tricks. Let's face it, these aren't just fancy magical gadgets. The Hallows are all steeped in one thing: death, but not in a morbid, spooky Halloween decor kind of way. Each object represents a different relationship we can have with death. Fight it, reverse it, avoid it. Sound familiar? It's like a personality quiz, but the stakes are, well, eternal. The Elder Wand is all about control, trying to dominate death through strength. Classic overcompensation, right? Cadmus's stone? That's denial. Can't let go, so he tries to pull the past into the present. And Ignotus? He chooses acceptance, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Each brother reflects a different human response to mortality. It's basically therapy with wands. Now, if we consider the idea that all three Hallows involve thestral magic, it adds a beautiful layer of consistency. Thestrals are creatures of paradox. They represent death, but only visible to those who understand it. That's the heart of it. The Hallows aren't about cheating death. They're about your relationship with it. And Thestrals? They're like the spirit guides in this journey. It's no wonder people think the Peveril brothers didn't meet death, but worked with it. Maybe not literally shaking hands, but symbolically. Absolutely. These weren't reckless teenagers dabbling in the dark arts. They were powerful, possibly brilliant, witches and wizards exploring the edges of existence. And in doing so, they created tools that revealed what kind of person you are when faced with the end. And just like that, what started as a fairy tale for children starts to feel a lot like an ancient philosophical text in disguise. But hold on, we're not wrapping things up just yet, because the story still functions as a fable. And like any good fairy tale, it doesn't just entertain. It teaches whether you like it or not. Every great fairy tale has a lesson, right? Don't trust witches in candy houses, don't make deals with talking animals, and maybe, just maybe, don't try to cheat death. The tale of the three brothers fits right into that tradition. At first glance, it's bedtime story material. But dig just a little deeper, and it starts reading more like a spiritual roadmap dressed up in wizard robes. The structure is classic. 3 characters, 3 choices, 3 outcomes. It's the narrative equivalent of choose your fighter. But instead of winning a match, you're deciding how you'll face your own mortality. The story isn't subtle. One brother dies from arrogance, another from grief, and only the humble one walks away. It's like Aesop's fables, if Aesop carried a wand and had trust issues. And don't overlook the messenger. This tale isn't told by some neutral narrator. It's part of the Tales of Beetle the Bard, a book literally passed down to teach young witches and wizards right from wrong. Dumbledore even leaves it to Hermione in the Deathly Hallows, because he knows this tale isn't fiction. It's a lesson Harry will need if he's going to survive what's coming. What makes this story brilliant is how it uses magic to expose something deeply human. We all know people like the brothers, the power-hungry one, the heartbroken one, the wise one. You could find them at your office, your family reunion, your group chat. This isn't just wizard stuff, it's human nature, wrapped in enchantments and sprinkled with tragedy. So yes, it's a fairy tale, but not the kind you forget after the last page. This one lingers. It asks you which brother you are, and then dares you to prove it. And now that we've seen the full story, there's still something missing. Not in the tale itself, but in why it was told in the first place. This theory originally comes from the Super Carlin brothers. Yeah, credit where credit's due. But I've added a few twists of my own, based on what I found most convincing, and honestly, what made the most magical sense to me. So now I've got to ask, which brother do you think you are? Or better yet, if the Hallows were real, which one would you risk everything to hold? Power, love, or freedom? Let me know in the comments. I really want to hear your take. And hey, if this got your brain spinning like a time turner, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. That way you'll never miss when we uncover more hidden layers behind the magic. And if you're still wondering how Harry and Voldemort ended up 2 sides of the same cursed coin, go ahead, click on the video right here and find out the full story. Don't stow your wand yet. More magical mysteries are coming your way. Until next video.